Hello everyone, Bible believers around the world. We're back with part 2 in this mini-series where we are discussing the false doctrine that says that the seed goes through the woman. So if your mom is not an Israelite, that means you're not an Israelite. We are also discussing the false doctrine that says that so-called interracial or mixed marriages are forbidden by the scriptures and hated by Yah. And we're going to be starting off with Jubilees chapter 30. Now, Jubilees chapter 30, when read out of context, seems to support these false doctrines. But when we read in context, the Most High Yah is going to show us what this is really about. So, the one Westerners like to point out in Jubilees chapter 30, when it says that it's an abomination to take a daughter of the Gentiles. And they end the page, right? They end it right there and close the book. And they say, see, it's a sin, it's evil. Divorce your wife and put your children on the street. And then that's it. But there's more to it than that. Let's read in context. Now, here's one thing that I want to point out. So, for those who don't know, Moses actually wrote Jubilees. Now, Moses married a non-Israelite. He married an Ethiopian. So it would be hypocritical for Moses to write this while being married or have been married to a non-Israelite. So right off the bat, we automatically know that there has to be more to the story than just this. So, let's get reading. I've covered this before, but we're going to cover it again. And to this law there is no limit of days, and no remission, nor any atonement. But the man who has defiled his daughter shall be rooted out in the midst of Israel, because he has given of his seed to Molech, and wrote impulsively so that as to defile it. And do thou, Moses, command the children of Israel, to exhort them not to give their daughters to the Gentiles, and not take for their sons any of the daughters of the Gentiles. For this is an abominable before the Lord. Okay, so here's what I'm going to show right here in context. So we just read that the Israelites made the link between marrying people of other nations and the seed of Molech, idolatry. So they have linked the practice of marrying somebody of another nation and giving your children over to the seed of Molech. Molech is a false god. So we already see what's happening right here. This is not a so-called racial issue, and it's about to get exposed even further. So let's go. For this reason I've written for in the deeds of the words of the law, the deeds of the Shemites, which they wrote against Diana, and how the sons of Jacob spake, saying, we will not give our daughter to a man who is uncircumcised, for that were a reproach unto us. Okay, that's key right there. So we already saw how it mentioned the father who gives his children over to the seed of Molech in reference to marriage with other nations. Now, the children of Israel said, we will not give our daughter to a man who is uncircumcised, for that will be a reproach unto us. Now, the circumcision was a sign of keeping the law, that you were in the covenant, that you were a lover of Yah. It was a sign of that. So when you see in the scriptures that it says that a nation of people was an uncircumcised nation of people, they were a lawless people. For instance, if we talk about Samson, when Samson was talking to his parents about liking, I believe it was the Philistine girl, his parents said to them, why must you go to an uncircumcised nation of people? Why do you want a girl from an uncircumcised nation of people? You realize they didn't mention her so-called race or ethnicity. They didn't mention the part that she was African. When they heard that their son liked Philistine women, the first thing they thought of was that they're uncircumcised people, lawless people. That's what it means. Let's keep going. And it is a reproach to Israel, to those who live and to those that take daughters of the Gentiles. For this is unclean and abominable to Israel. And Israel will not be free from this uncleanness, if it has a wife of the daughters of the Gentiles, or has given any of its daughters to a man who is of any of the Gentiles. You see? Now, they will read that part, but they skip the uncircumcised part, and they skip the Molech part. This is why it's key to read in context. So once we've read about how the children of Israel said that it's a reproach for them to give their daughter to a man who's uncircumcised, aka a man who's not in the law, and how we just read on the top how has defiled his daughter shall be rooted out of the midst of Israel, because he has given of his seed to Molech. The link right there to idolatry. It puts all of this in context. Now let's go to the book of Tobit. All right, we're at Tobit chapter 4 and verse 12. This will be probably one of the last scriptures we cover, because this is really all that there is in the Bible that the one Westerners completely twist in a 360 to mean something that it doesn't. So this is what Tobit had to say. Beware of all whoredom, my son. Chiefly take a wife of the seed of thy fathers, and take not a strange woman to wife, which is not of thy father's tribe. For we are the children of the prophets, know we. I, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Remember, my son, that our fathers in the beginning, even if they all made wives of their own kindred, and they were blessed in their children, and their seed shall inherit the land. Okay, let's get into this. Now, once again, just like Jubilees chapter 30, where they read the part about it being an abomination to take a woman from the Gentiles, and it being a curse and all that, and they don't read about the part of the uncircumcised nation and that being the problem, and how the Israelites made ties between companionship with people of other nations and giving your seed over to idolatry, Molech. It's the same thing here. I'm going to tell you something. I have beware of all whoredom, my son, for a reason. Now, one of the meanings of whoredom is idolatry. So, beware of all whoredom, my son. Beware of all idolatry. I'll put it on the screen. One of the biblical meanings of whoredom is idolatry. And we're going to link that up with the scriptures. You have a scripture that's going to bring that home and prove that. So right here, Tobit is doing the same thing that the Israelites are doing in Jubilees chapter 30. It was of his understanding that women of different nationalities were connected with whoredom, idol worship, idolatry, and he did not want his son to fall into whoredom, idolatry. And we can look that up in the scriptures right now. You know, we're not just going to go to the Bible dictionary. We actually have a scripture in the Bible that actually proves this. Beware of all whoredom, my son. Idolatry. Okay, we're now in Numbers chapter 25. Now, Numbers chapter 25 is going to bring home the point that we just discovered in the book of Tobit. It's going to bring home what we were just talking about. So Numbers chapter 25, we're going to be reading Numbers chapter 25, verses 1 and 2. Verse 1, and Israel abide in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab. Verse 2, and they called the people unto the sacrifices of their gods, and the people did eat and bow down to their gods. See, they began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab. Tobit, beware of whoredom, my son. It's the same thing. Lawless, wicked people. And that really does it, you know. This doctrine, just like many of the One West Camp doctrines, is actually Talmudic. So when you say that interracial marriage is a sin and it's not about what it's about the so-called blood and ethnicity of the person, and it's not about if they love Yah or serve Yah or not, you're really quoting Talmudic doctrine, because the Talmud says that you may exploit, I believe it says you may exploit a girl of the Gentiles, but you can't marry her. So that's where that comes from. Hope this mini lesson helped. If you have any more questions, leave them down below, and take care.